Hello fellow brawlers, I'm KairosTime and it is time to brawl. Now I've been playing Brawl Stars almost every single day ever since the game was released originally for beta testing over 2.5 years ago. And in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at every single aspect of Brawl Stars and determine if it is worth your time in 2020. Spoiler alert. It depends. I have a lot of thoughts about the game and I'm going to be sharing all of them in this 100% honest and complete game review of Brawl Stars. Now, as a content creator whose channel is 99% about Brawl Stars, it is very important that you guys know that although I do love Brawl Stars, I'm going to be doing a lot of things in this video to remove my own personal bias so that you can decide if it is your kind of game and ultimately if it's worth your time this year in 2020. Now, to do all this, we're going to be breaking down the game into various aspects and I will give my honest review based off of player types, the free-to-play to whale economy scale, TM, game complexity and skill cap, time requirement, as well as a few other things that are important to cover when it comes to giving a game 100% honest, complete review. If you like this video, feel free to suggest a similar video for another game, including maybe some other Supercell ones or other games you're curious about as well. And if you play Brawl Stars, I would appreciate it if you use code Kairos in the in-game shop. Now to kick off this complete review, we're going to be talking about player types and rate Brawl Stars on a scale of 1 to 5 according to Bartle's taxonomy of player types. By the way, if you're into game design, Bartle's classification of video game players is actually pretty cool to look into. First up on the list are achievers. Brawl Stars actually offers a lot to players who like to set goals and accomplish something that's worth being proud of. Not only are there 33 brawlers that every player has a goal to unlock, assuming they're an achiever, you get rewards and different rank badges for pushing each brawler to higher trophy levels, with the highest being at rank 35 at 1,250 trophies, which is not an easy thing to accomplish. In fact, only a small number of players have ever reached rank 35 with even just one character, and there are only a few who have done it with all of the characters, which is incredibly impressive. Now, with that said, climbing the trophy road is typically the first long-term goal that players tend to reach for because of the rewards that come from it. And another cool part about Brawl Stars are the star point skins that are only purchasable by doing various things in the game. And two of the skins, Golden Mecha Crow and Golden Mecha Bow, are the ultimate bragging rights in the game since they're very difficult to unlock and cannot even be purchased. Not even I have all the star skins, so there's a lot to work towards for achievers. Along with all that, every player's profile shows various stats that include accomplishments such as total trophy counts, highest power play rank, best time as the big brawler, and other things to show off as well. There are endless accomplishments a player could try to reach in Brawl Stars, and it is a big reason why I love this game so much as an achiever myself. When it comes to player types, I give Brawl Stars a 5-star rating for achievers. Up next for player types are explorers. Explorers love immersing themselves in a game world and prefer actually discovering areas or finding glitches or Easter eggs within any game that they play. In Brawl Stars, there are several different types of environments, and those who are paying close attention will actually find some lore within the game, but Brawl Stars is certainly not a game for explorers. Each match lasts roughly 2 to 3 minutes, and although there are differences in the maps that do impact like which characters are better to use, there isn't much content for an explorer to discover, and there's not even really time to explore it when you're playing a match either way. When it comes to player types, I give Brawl Stars a 1-star rating for explorers. Now let's talk about Brawl Stars for Socializers. Socializers enjoy a game that encourages them to interact with other players or for other players to interact with them, and that allows them to meet other players in game. Brawl Stars has a 100-man club, which is double the size of number of people in like most guilds or clans in other games. But with that said, the game does very little, if any, to encourage players to socialize with each other. There's no global chat to help recruit players to your club, but the game does have a club chat, and you can also chat with team members between matches if you are friends with them. But improvements to the random matchmaking and the addition of the look for team feature has actually led to most players just playing with randoms the majority of the time, and that means that most players don't even need to check in with their club or chat with a single other player ever. And the reason why is because when you're playing with randoms, you either have no means of communicating with them or you have very limited set number of phrases that you can actually use, and even those phrases and emojis are like really lacking. When you are in a match, there's no built-in way to communicate with teammates or enemy players with pings or emotes, so players have actually resorted to like spinning around in circles to communicate everything from well played, team with me, to BMing against the enemy team or anything else that they want to communicate. The game doesn't offer an ability to voice chat in game, so you need to resort to third-party apps if you want to talk talk with teammates while you play. And beyond the lack of socializing features that allow players to communicate with each other, there currently doesn't exist any primary game mode or event like clan wars to encourage players to interact with others. With that said, it does sound like this is a focus from the developer team, and I'm really hopeful that a lot of these issues will actually be addressed within this year. When it comes to player types, I give Brawl Stars a 2-star rating for Socializers as it is right now, but I do think that it has potential to reach 5 stars in the future. Up next for player types are killers. Killers thrive on competition with other players and testing their own skill. Brawl Stars is absolutely made for killers. The modes are either a 10-man survival mode or a 3v3 competition to complete certain objectives. And although this isn't always the case, the team with the most kills wins most of the time. There's very little, if any, RNG mid-battle, and that means that the battle's outcome is almost always due to skill. Now, there are some exceptions like teamers or spawn locations in Showdown, bad randoms who either go AFK or make stupid plays, as well as like lag and connection issues. But while those issues can be improved somewhat, they're not entirely within the control of the developers, and competition is very fair and skill-based. I'm actually going to be talking about game complexity and skill cap later on, and that's where I'm going to talk about the depth and the strategy behind combat, so you'll want to stick around for that. But when it comes to player types, I rate Brawl Stars as a 5-star game for killers or people who enjoy PvP in general. Okay, now technically I've already covered the 4 types of players according to Bartle, but I'm actually going to be adding a 5th one, which I think is absolutely fair because some of the games have recently climbed to the top of the popularity charts like Fortnite and Minecraft. And that player type is the builders. Builders enjoy aspects of a game that spark creativity and allow them to express themselves either through building and interacting with their environment, customizing their characters' cosmetics, or in personalizing their character's skill set to cater to a preferred strategy or playstyle. When it comes to character personalization in Brawl Stars, your only decisions are which profile icon that you use, the color of your name, and if you have played for a long time or you've spent money on the game, which skin to use on your brawlers. When it comes to strategic creativity and customizing your playstyle, you get to choose which character you're going to play out of 33 brawlers, but you can't change anything about how they operate aside from choosing between one of 2 star powers if your character is maxed out. I'm not going to include creating team comps because you can't really control how your teammates play, and most people play with randoms anyway, so they don't even get any say in the team comps they're going to be playing. Now, the one thing that Brawl Stars does have going for it for builders is the fact that there are so many different characters with different play styles to choose from. But aside from that, there's actually very little to appeal to builders in Brawl Stars. When it comes to player types, I rate Brawl Stars a 2-star game for builders who are actually looking for creativity in their gameplay. Okay, guys, now let's talk about game economy and rate Brawl Stars for each type of spender, whether they're a completely free-to-play player on one hand or they're a complete whale on the other. Now, according to my calculations, with 33 brawlers in the game right now, it takes just over 3 years for a completely free-to-play player to max out their account. If you want to completely max out an account on day 1 without any natural progression, it'll cost you about $1,700. Now, this is excluding any cosmetics, but in case you're curious, it'll cost you $350 if you want to buy all the skins currently in the game, including some of the ones that are only like limited to time only as well. Now, I should note that all of these numbers are actually based off of videos that I released about a year ago. I did incorporate the addition of new brawlers, so these are pretty solid estimates, but they are only estimates, so you should take it with a grain of salt. I should also mention that these numbers increase with the release of every new brawler, and with all that said, they do give a pretty good analysis of the game's economy right now. Let's talk about free-to-play players who do not spend any money on the game at all. Now, there are a few things that really matters to a free-to-play player. First off is whether you're going to be a disadvantage at the core gameplay. Second is like what premium features you'll be able to unlock, such as like cosmetics. And of course, if being a free-to-play player will actually prevent you from participating in any part of the game, such as like the competitive scene, special events, or once again, cosmetics or anything like that. The really nice thing about being a free-to-play player in Brawl Stars is that dedicated players won't have a hard time getting the majority of their brawlers to level 7 or level 8, where it is absolutely possible to outskill an enemy player who has either been playing longer than you or who has spent money on the game. Free-to-play players typically have to play without star powers, which does put them at a disadvantage later on in progression, but star powers aren't actually very game-breaking and absolutely can be played around. Overall, I'd say that skill is more important than progress about 75% of the time, but character progress is an important factor to consider, so the game isn't 100% free-to-play friendly. As far as premium features go, the game does give a small amount of free gems to players, so they can save them up to unlock items that they really want to, so there isn't really any content that free-to-play players cannot experience. Additionally, there are some skins in the game that cost star points that can only be unlocked from in-game achievements, and some of them are actually like the coolest skins in the game. As far as esports is concerned, all qualifications and tournaments implement friendly rules, which means that all brawlers are maxed out, even if you don't have a maxed out account. As such, the only limitation is whether or not you have all of the characters, and so that does limit free-to-play players' choices somewhat, as legendary brawlers are pretty rare. With that said though, rarity does not determine whether or not a brawler is strong in Brawl Stars, so free-to-play players actually have plenty of competitive options if they want to compete in esports. I should also mention that free-to-play players are at a disadvantage in power play, where you can only play brawlers that have at least 1 star power. I mean, free-to-play players can focus on getting 1 to 2 star powers, but their choices to brawlers that they're going to be playing in power play is limited in comparison to other players. These days, free-to-play players are really used to playing against major disadvantages in most competitive online games, but there are some excellent games out there that monetize strictly through cosmetics, so skill is the most important factor in those games. Brawl Stars certainly isn't very bad when it comes to the disadvantages that free-to-play players experience, but spending does help give a small competitive edge, so I'd say that Brawl Stars overall is a 4-star game for free-to-play players when it comes to players' spending habits. Up next, we got light spenders and medium spenders. I would say that light spenders are anyone who makes small purchases here or there, anywhere up to $10 a month, US dollars. And medium spenders are willing to go up to $30 per month. At least for Brawl Stars, I'm going to be talking about these two types of spenders at the same time. Light and medium spenders have similar concerns as free-to-play players because they're not spending a ton of money on the game, but there is one other concern that they have when spending money on the game. Will their money actually provide immediate value and satisfaction? Or is it just going to feel like a waste, like a drop in the bucket, when you guys know what I'm talking about? For every $1 US that you spend in Brawl Stars, it'll save you roughly 3/4 of a day in progression. This means that light and medium spenders will progress through the game anywhere up to 75% faster than free-to-play players. Now, this is assuming that they're buying token doublers, which is a pretty consistent way to provide value, but the progress is even better if they focus on buying special offers or tickets that they can then use in Robo Rumble, or special offers for token doublers when they come up in the shop. Light and medium spenders will have significant advantage over free-to-play players when it comes to progressing quickly, and over time, they'll be able to have enough skins for the majority of their brawlers, since skin costs are actually pretty low in Brawl Stars in comparison to most games. We're talking anywhere from $2 to $20. Additionally, light and medium spenders will still be able to compete against higher spenders so long as they have the skill to do so. Now, when it comes to a player's spending habits, I would say that Brawl Stars is a 5-star game for light and medium spenders. Now let's talk about heavy spenders spending anywhere between $30 and $100 a month. Spending that kind of money is basically going to get you whatever you want in Brawl Stars. Heavy spenders will max out their account even as soon as 1 year of playing the game, and even earlier than that. They'll likely have every character and quickly unlock the new ones as soon as they're released. Additionally, they're going to have the option of buying any cosmetic skin as long as it's available for purchase to them. Now, being this type of a player might actually sound like a dream to many Brawl Stars players, but that doesn't necessarily mean that Brawl Stars is the best game for heavy spenders. Typically, a heavy spender has 2 major concerns. Now, the first is whether or not the amount of money that they've been willing to spend on the game is going to give them a significant advantage over other players. In Brawl Stars, the outcome of battle does rely a bit on character progression, but skill is actually a much bigger determining factor. Additionally, the progress cap on each brawler is relatively low in comparison to most multiplayer games. These two things are cons for heavy spenders because they want their purchase to give them a distinct advantage in battle, and it just simply doesn't do that in Brawl Stars. The second major concern for heavy spenders is whether or not their investment into a game will provide value for them in the long run. In Brawl Stars, any progress is good progress, and nothing is going to be thrown out the window with the release of future content. Additionally, there are several limited time only skins that heavy spenders will collect as soon as they're available, and that means that they're going to have the rarest skins in the game, which is really cool. When it comes to player spending habits, I rate Brawl Stars as a 4-star game for heavy spenders. Now let's talk about the heaviest of spenders, also known as whales. These are guys that are willing to spend anything more than $100 per month. Sometimes, honestly, even in the thousands. For whales, what matters most is whether or not their money can make them the best in the game. The answer to that question for Brawl Stars, at least in the short run, is yes, since whales are going to quickly progress as soon as they get into the game, and they are just going to stomp on noobs with ease. In the long run, however, the answer is no, because it's not going to be long before they start to face players who have the skill to outplay them, and as they start to face heavy spenders who have spent less than whales that are also going to have maxed out accounts, all of a sudden, you know, the whales just don't have the advantage that they would prefer to have. Now, while the progress advantage that whales will get will provide them with like some really dominant fun for a while, even free-to-play players eventually are going to be able to beat them if they've been playing for a while and have the skill to do so. And beyond that, there isn't a single cosmetic in Brawl Stars that a medium or heavy spender can't afford, so whales can't even look cooler than everybody else either. So yeah, if you're a whale, Brawl Stars is not your game, but I am sure that Supercell would love it if you tried Clash Royale or Clash of Clans. Now, when it comes to player spending habits, I would rate Brawl Stars as a 2-star game for the heaviest of spenders, or whales. Now that we've talked about types of spenders and player types, it's time for us to actually start talking about game complexity. We're going to rate Brawl Stars on the playing experience that it provides for each type of gamer, whether they're a new gamer, an experienced gamer, or a veteran gamer. First up, new gamers. New gamers are people who either don't play games at all, have only experienced a few kinds of games, or people who have never played a real-time strategy game like Brawl Stars before, or even just any real-time strategy game for that matter. New gamers' biggest concern is how well the game is going to teach them how to play and understand the more complex aspects of the game, since they don't actually have much experience from other games to pull from. In my opinion, Brawl Stars' tutorial is pretty terrible for new gamers. It teaches the basic controls of shooting and charging your super, and then throws you into a 3v3 bot match that gets really confusing as new players have to balance ammo consumption, carrying gems, figuring out which of the 6 characters is theirs, all while dealing with controls that they probably aren't familiar with. After that, the game does almost nothing to explain character progression and game economy, and players are left to try and figure all that out on their own. Another thing that's important to new gamers is that they're able to play with other people or bots of similar skill so that the game doesn't feel like an uphill battle the entire time, and so that they can also learn at their own pace. You may not know this, but the first several matches that you play in Brawl Stars, like the first several, like lots of matches, are against bots, okay? If you beat them all, the game starts to put you up against real players and balances out which players you start to face depending on how well you play. Because of the way that this is actually set up, Smurfs, also known as experienced players playing on alternate accounts, are more likely to face other Smurfs, and true new players are more likely to face other true new players. Additionally, total trophy count is included in the matchmaking, which means that new players are very unlikely to face people that are a much higher skill level than theirs. Honestly, I think that most new gamers, people that are legitimately new to gaming, are very likely to quit Brawl Stars within 10 minutes of playing, mostly due to the lack of an engaging and clear tutorial. So I have to rate it low for new gamers, but the game is actually a great first experience in the real-time strategy genre for gamers. So if they can actually get past the tutorial and grasp those concepts well, I think it's actually pretty good. So overall, when it comes to game depth and complexity, I rate Brawl Stars as a 2-star game for new gamers, with the potential of it being a 4-star game if they did a really good job at improving this tutorial. Okay, now let's talk about experienced gamers. I'm going to categorize people as experienced gamers if they've been playing games anywhere from 2 to 7 years, people who have played a wide variety of games, including a few real-time strategy games, or people who already have some experience playing a MOBA. A MOBA, M-O-B-A, is a multiplayer online battle arena. That's the type of game that Brawl Stars is. Real-time strategy is a genre, and MOBA is like a subgenre of that. MOBAs tend to be rather complex. They require a lot of quick thinking, as well as demand a lot of hand-eye coordination and dexterity. Experienced gamers shouldn't have an issue breezing through the tutorial, and they might have some questions about the progression system, but they'll be able to figure it out just fine, since it's not very different from what you're likely to find in other games. While the underdeveloped tutorial is a con for new gamers, the fact that it's so short is kind of perfect for experienced gamers. I should note that in my opinion, it is absolutely possible for a game to create the perfect tutorial for all experience levels, but that does require a lot of development, or an option for players to select their experience level so that they can go through a tutorial that is custom for them. I think the early game is actually really great for experienced gamers as they unlock new modes and start to feel comfortable playing with a wide variety of brawlers and against a wide variety of brawlers. The game has some characters like Shelly and El Primo that are super easy to use use and feel very strong when you first start playing. But where I really think that experienced gamers will enjoy themselves is like in mid game or late game, where the strategy of the enemy players gets a lot higher and higher as they progress, and players are forced to adapt their strategies beyond the easy to play close range brawlers. The game has a natural sense of progression for experienced gamers as they start to rely a lot less on auto aim and start to manually aim and learn how to dodge attacks. And then as they start to reach end game, they're going to start having to learn all of the star powers for the brawlers so that they can either use them best to their advantage or they can figure out how to play around them. Now in most MOBAs, including a lot of mobile MOBAs, each character has 5 or more active abilities and probably also a few passive ones as well. And players can actually customize their characters pre-battle as well as mid-battle to best fit their playstyle. This adds several layers of complexity to the game to learn and master as you progress through the game. In Brawl Stars, it's a very different story. An end game player will choose one of 2 star powers outside of battle, and then they have 2 abilities to choose from during battle. One of them is probably not going to be used very often. Now, because of this simplicity, experienced gamers are a lot less likely to feel overwhelmed or helpless against skilled players, which is why I think Brawl Stars is actually a really great experience for experienced gamers. Now, with all that said, I do think that experienced players will have a pretty complete understanding of Brawl Stars' game mechanics, like all of it, after about a year of playing the game, which is a pretty short time frame for this type of game, or even for Supercell games in general. So my hope is that they're actually going to add more depth to the core gameplay sometime this year, which should fix this issue. Overall, when it comes to game complexity and depth, I rate Brawl Stars as a 4-star game for experienced gamers, with the potential of being a 5-star game if they actually added more complexity to the core gameplay. And of course, let's talk about veteran gamers. These are gamers who have been playing games for over 7 years. People who have played a wide variety of games, including mobile games that use joysticks for controls, or people who have some sort of experience specifically with MOBAs that are similar to Brawl Stars, or anybody that has more than 1 year of experience playing Brawl Stars. Veteran gamers have a few concerns that other gamers do not. The first is that they want the tutorial to either be very engaging so it doesn't feel like a tutorial, or they want it to be quick so they don't have to skip through meaningless chatter. Brawl Stars has the perfect tutorial for veteran gamers because it's super quick and they don't have to worry about understanding what it's trying to teach them. The next concern for veteran gamers is being challenged pretty early on so they don't get bored. Early game for veteran gamers honestly just kind of feels like a joke. You've got 2 abilities per character when you're used to 5 or more, and that makes the game feel pretty flat to veteran gamers. And there's a good chance that they're actually going to be able to tell early on that they're facing a lot of bots who are obviously programmed to play like they just want to give you trophies. But one thing that Brawl Stars does have going for veteran gamers is the trophy progression system and how matchmaking actually works for it. Veterans will feel like they're incredibly good at the game when they first pick it up, and even though it might feel like pretty simple to them, it's always fun to win, and the game will progressively get harder and harder for them until they're facing other players of equal skill, or players that don't quite have equal skill but are much higher in progression, and nothing strikes feeling a sense of accomplishment like beating somebody who has a higher level account than you. Now, another concern for veteran gamers is how high the skill cap is for the game. It should come as no surprise that veteran gamers are the most likely type of player to be insulted by the addition of auto aim in the game, because they're looking for more of a challenge, and auto aim levels the playing field between them and less experienced gamers. Veteran gamers tend to want more skill cap in their game, and although auto aim absolutely is a benefit to making the game more inclusive to less experienced gamers, it does remove a lot of that skill cap that the game could have. As veteran gamers start to reach mid-game, things are going to get a little bit better as player skill becomes more important, and as they start to unlock some of the brawlers that are more difficult to master, like Mortis or Rico. But after some time, they'll also realize how flat the skill cap level for individual brawlers is as well. Now, this is the result of simple rules to game modes, and each character only having 2 abilities, which means that it doesn't take long for a veteran gamer to only have one method of improving their skill, that one method being improving twitch reflexes. Now, here's what I mean. In MOBAs where characters have 5 or more abilities, there are so many combos and so many interactions that happen between characters that it literally takes years of playing before even the most dedicated players can master it. And once they do master it, the only thing left for them to do to get better at the game is to improve their twitch reflexes. In Brawl Stars, that point happens much sooner, which means that players younger than 24 will have a distinct advantage over older players, even if those older players have a better understanding of the game. That's based off of like scientific studies that have been recently done, and you can look into it if you want. Now, the last thing that's really important to veteran gamers is how much content there is when they reach endgame. Brawl Stars currently has two parts to endgame. The first is grinding the ladder to try and reach new ranks for your brawlers, and the second is power play. I'm not going to include esports since less than 1% of the players even get to compete at the competitive level, but I will talk about esports a little bit later on in today's video. Once veteran gamers do reach endgame, they will realize that if they want to compete against other high-skilled brawlers consistently, they're gonna have to grind their brawlers to like 700 trophies or higher each season, which is frustrating because that means that they're gonna have to spend a lot of time recovering the trophies that they lose at the end of the 2-week trophy reset. Power play also completely resets after 2 weeks, which means that it's not much of a challenge until the last day or two of the season. And when it comes to depth and complexity, I rate Brawl Stars as a 2-star game for veteran gamers, with of course the possibility of reaching 4 or 5 stars if Supercell adds additional abilities for each of the characters' kits. Now that we've covered depth and complexity, I want to talk about the enjoyment that casual and hardcore gamers get depending on how rewarding it is to play Brawl Stars for certain periods of time. Let's start off by talking about casual gamers, which is not to be confused with new gamers, okay? You can have a casual gamer who simply just doesn't have time to play games for very long, but they are absolutely a veteran gamer because they've been playing games for years. Also, for the purpose of this review, I'm going to assume that people are only playing Brawl Stars and don't have another game on the side, even though I know that this often is not the case. I'm going to say casual gamers are those that have less than 30 minutes a day to play. Casual gamers care about being able to hop right into the action and hop right out and get back to their lives, all while maximizing progression. In Brawl Stars, you can progress slightly faster through the game by grinding all of your characters as high as you can, but the easiest and most rewarding way to play is through your daily tokens and star tokens, right? You can only get a maximum of 200 tokens per day and 4 to 6 star tokens depending on how many events are currently active. If you win all of your matches, you can unlock all of those in about 20 minutes, but assuming you also lose half your matches as well, it'll take 30 minutes to do so. This is excluding power play, and it's also excluding special events like ticketed events or 15-win challenges. Because of this, a casual gamer is likely going to miss out on rewards every now and then, and they'll progress slower than other players as it'll take them longer to get the rewards in the trophy road or from those special events. However, that being said, a dedicated casual gamer will still progress at a very quickly rate overall. And of course, the actual core gameplay is kind of perfect for an experienced or veteran gamer who just doesn't have the time to play for a long time, but who also want that experience of a heart-racing MOBA for a few minutes at a time. Brawl Stars is the kind of game that you can quickly pull out on the bus between classes, when you're on the toilet, we all do it, guys, or if you're just waiting for something for a couple of minutes. And the nice thing is that you can grind through those 200 tokens per day, one match at a time, which is very conducive to a positive casual gamer's experience. Overall, when it comes to rewarding players for their time spent playing, I'm going to rate Brawl Stars as a 4-star game for casual gamers. Next up, when it comes to time requirement, we're going to talk about midcore gamers who are playing games anywhere from 30 minutes to 2 hours a day. Honestly, this is kind of like the perfect gamer when it comes to time requirement for playing Brawl Stars. Like, Brawl Stars is perfect for this. With up to 2 hours per day, you'll never miss on any progression, and you'll even be able to spend a really solid amount of time pushing your characters to respectable trophy counts. Midcore gamers will also be able to take full advantage of ticketed events or special 15-win challenges. The matches are relatively short in comparison to a lot of other MOBAs that have a minimum of 10 minutes requirement and can even last up to an hour sometimes, so it's easy to feel a sense of accomplishment with more than 30 minutes of gameplay a day. It's also really easy to feel a strong sense of progression, or maybe even some strong emotions from a tilt when you have more than 30 minutes to play every day as well. When it comes to rewarding players for their time spent playing, I rate Brawl Stars as a 5-star game for midcore gamers. Now let's talk about hardcore gamers who are ready to play more than 2 hours per day. In order for someone to play a game for more than 2 hours per day over a long period of time, not only does the core gameplay have to have high emotion moments to keep your interest, but it also has to have those calmer moments that can like give you a breather so you don't have to be stressing out all the time. Brawl Stars is really good at keeping your emotions high and holding your attention, but it does not do a very good job at giving you a break to maintain your sanity over a long period of time. Assuming you're playing matches back to back, the attention needs to be high 100% of the time, and that becomes very draining after 2 hours a day. Because of this, hardcore gamers are very likely to find Brawl Stars repetitive and tiring. What I find interesting is that most MOBAs actually have different modes that last different amounts of times, and Brawl Stars originally added Siege as a 5-minute mode to try and experiment with this, but the players didn't actually like the mode very much, and so Supercell rebalanced it after a few different changes and eventually brought it back down to about 2 minutes, like all the other modes in the game. I don't know if Siege was the issue or the time was the issue, but I'd like to see some more experimentation in the future. When it comes to rewarding players for their time spent playing, I rate Brawl Stars as a 2-star game for hardcore gamers, but I do think it could be much higher if there were other game modes that lasted longer and had a little bit more calm downtime. Now at this point in the video, we have covered a lot of types of gamers and rated Brawl Stars according to each one of them. In fact, this is the longest video that I have ever released, and even at this point, I still have some top points that I want to cover, okay? After all, I did say this was going to be 100% honest and 100% complete. Let's go ahead and hit these few last items pretty quickly. Brawl Stars has a pretty quick update schedule of once every 1 to 2 months, and sometimes we get some balance changes in the middle of there. It's not the fastest game out there for updates, and it doesn't produce the most content in comparison to a lot of games, but it is certainly not the slowest, and they do release a decent amount of content. I give Brawl Stars a 4-star rating for update frequency. Now let's talk about game controls. I love the option to switch between a locked and fluid movement control, and Supercell has actually done a lot of optimizing the controls since the game was first released. For the most part, I feel like they've done a really great job. However, the game lacks any options to customize placement or sizing depending on personal hand size and device size, and I still have times where I accidentally use my super when I don't mean to, and there are definitely some awkward moments where I can't reach maximum range when I want to use my super straight down or even a little bit to the sides like that. So I do think that this is something that needs to be improved. Also, most game developers of popular PvP games that use joysticks recognize that mobile simply is not the best medium for joysticks because of the lack of a tactile response. And so what they do is they add some type of a controller support with Bluetooth controllers. This option does not exist in Brawl Stars, which I find to be a flaw, even though I know that Brawl Stars wants to really support mobile. Joystick control is not a mobile thing. Joystick control is best to use on a console, and Brawl Stars is a mobile game, so there needs to be some other options there, I think. I give Brawl Stars a 3-star rating for controls. I also give Brawl Stars a 5-star rating for listening to community feedback and communicating with their players. This might not be apparent to people who just aren't paying attention, but anybody who is will see that it's very clear. They allow YouTubers to conduct interviews with them and then share those videos in game to answer the types of questions that players have frequently. Their game lead, Frank, often responds to questions and gives insights on decisions on Twitter and things like that. And they are always looking for constructive feedback on how they can improve the game. I also give Brawl Stars a 5-star rating for their competitive esports scene. Every player around the world gets to compete in monthly qualifiers with their 15-win challenge, and Supercell actually puts a lot of money into their prize pool, which is something that not every game company does. Even like Nintendo and Super Smash Brothers, they should put something into their competitive scene. They don't, but Brawl Stars does. As a caster for the first World Championship, I could see how incredibly organized they were behind the scenes as well, which was very impressive. Some other quick things that I really love about Brawl Stars. It doesn't require the best devices to play pretty well on, though I will say that there are some strange lag and connectivity issues even on some of the best Wi-Fis, but it's pretty friendly for people that have low-end devices. I also love how family-friendly the game is for a shooter game, and I absolutely love the art style. The game has a massive community on YouTube and Reddit and various other social media platforms, and of course, the game is a ton of fun to play, which really is the #1 thing and most important thing when it comes to any game that you're ever gonna play. So to answer this question that I asked at the beginning of the video, is Brawl Stars worth your time in 2020? I think you already know that the answer depends on who you are as a gamer. Are you a hardcore veteran socializer whale? Then the answer is no, probably not, right? But if you're a mid-core experienced gamer who's a light to medium spender who loves PvP, then the answer is absolutely yes. Are you somewhere in the middle of it all? Well, then it's really gonna kind of depend on whether you're not having fun. As for me, I'm a mid-core veteran heavy spender who loves PvP a lot, and I am obsessed with the game, and I love it. And I'm really curious to know what kind of gamer you are. So if you reach this point of the video, here's what I want you to do. If you gave Brawl Stars a 1-star rating, do hashtag 1 star, and then list the type of gamer that you are. If you give it a 5-star rating, go ahead and do hashtag 5 star, and then tell me what kind of gamer you are. Here's a list of all the types of gamers that I mentioned in today's video, so you can just go ahead and tell me like that. And obviously, if you're anywhere between 1 star and 5 star, then you can also let me know that as well. Hashtag 2 star, hashtag 3 star, hashtag 4 star. You guys get the idea. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. I had a ton of fun making it. I know this is one of the longest videos that I've ever released. It probably is the longest one, so I'm excited to see what you guys have to say about that. And of course, if there are other games that you would like me to do this for, then, you know, you can let me know. Clash Royale, Clash of Clans. I've also been playing Black Desert Mobile, so that might be something you are curious about. For now, guys, this is KairosTime ticking by, and we will see you in Brawl Stars.